I've spent the last couple of days at our manufacturing facility and had a really, really great time. It was very enlightening. I think we're in great hands on the manufacturing side. And I wouldn't tell you that if it wasn't true. These guys are hungry for our business. They're excited. They are as excited about us as we are about all you guys and about everything that's going on within the business. And so we have a tremendous partner with our manufacturing company. Couple of things. I was able to try every product. Every raw material has been ordered. Packaging has been ordered. Everything is progressing very, very nicely. We are working on some special samples over the course of the next couple of weeks to get out to you guys. And oh my gosh, let me tell you guys, there is one particular product. I won't call it by name, but let's just say that it calms you down when you take it. And wow, that's all I got to say. And I'm a pretty good judge of product because I'm a guinea pig. I am my own guinea pig. And so it was exciting to feel that product and what it did for us. And what an amazing product, an amazing experience. And guys, you guys are going to be excited. My gosh, what an awesome deal. And so the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is our never list. We have had a lot of people requesting our never list. And so we have been working on a never list. These are things that we are not going to have in our products. Things like sucralose. And those of you that I've known for a long time know that I'm real anti-sucralose. I do not like artificial sweeteners of any kind, but I especially do not like sucralose and some of the major deleterious effects that it has on the human body. So there is a never list that will be published tomorrow, and we're excited to get that list out. And it's a pretty comprehensive list. I want you guys to understand this is a living document, which means that this document will change as we progress through our business life cycle. So that typically means that we will add to it as research comes out and shows that other things are not healthy. Most of you guys know, and for those of you that don't, Make Wellness is a company dedicated to health and wellness. Whether it's health and wellness of our bodies, of our minds, of our spirits, financial, as Justin likes to talk about, those are all things that we have to really pay careful attention to. And tonight we're going to talk about the first and in my opinion, the keystone product for the Make Wellness line. And that's our Make Fit product. And so we're going to pop up the slideshow real quick. And I'll run you through some slides, but I want to start off by making you guys understand exactly what fit is. There's a lot of conversation, a lot of talk about peptides and peptides being hormones and peptides being drugs and peptides being bad for you. Let me tell you something. Peptides are a phenomenal tool that the human body uses. In fact, you'll see here after a while, there are over 7,000 peptides that have been identified in the human body. So these things are no minuscule thing. These things are significant factors to the physiological function of the human body. So what are peptides? So here's a couple of facts that I want to give to you so that you guys can kind of understand what it is that we're dealing with in our peptides. Peptides are combinations of amino acids, usually ranging from 2 to 50 in length. So typically anything over 50 is considered a protein, and then anything that's just a single amino acid is just a single amino acid. So you've got 2, which is a dipeptide, you've got 3 tripeptides, and then you get into the polypeptides, which are basically 4 or more. And so again, like I said a while ago, they're absolutely crucial to the physiological function. They have effects in the body. They can play roles from hormones to neurotransmitters. They play roles in wound healing, skin health, and one of the things that we're going to talk about today, muscle building. And so when we start talking about peptides and the benefits of peptides, our main focus with the FIT product is going to be on muscle protein synthesis, MPS. And you'll see throughout the course of the slides, I use the SMM, skeletal muscle mass, throughout the slide. And so we're going to talk a lot about skeletal muscle mass. But let me tell you guys, what you need to understand about skeletal muscle mass is we're not talking about building a bodybuilder's type of body. We're talking about maintaining skeletal muscle mass so that we can maintain our physical function of the body. As I'm working on my PhD, my area of specialty is a disease called sarcopenia. There are chances that the chance is that you guys have never even heard of that term, although it is a significant and it is a recognized disease. It is a significant disease known primarily to older populations, but it's a disease state that actually starts in the third decade of life. So it really begins in our 20s. So what we have to understand is that as we're going through this slide, I want you to understand that we're not talking about getting in the gym and becoming a bodybuilder. We're not talking about becoming a power lifter. We're talking about doing the things now that will help us maintain our muscle mass, maintain our muscle strength, and maintain our muscle function so that as we grow older, we can have a quality of life that's not dictated by a nursing home or not dictated by the average older person over 50 on 5 different drugs, polypharmacy. We want to be able to control our own lives. And that's what this is about. And when you look at the research and the science on the FIT and the bioactive precision peptides that are contained in the FIT, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, that's exactly what this product helps us to do. So you have to remember that everything that we do now with what I'm talking about is when we take in protein and when we exercise and everything that we do now lifestyle wise is going to affect us later on in some way. So how do we want it to affect us? Do we want it to affect us positively? Do we want it to affect us negatively? And that's the real question that we've got to answer. So before we get started with the science side of it, let me give you some exciting statistics about peptides. So in 2021, the peptide therapeutics market was about 15.5 billion. 2022, it more than doubled, went to 39.3 billion. Okay. It's estimated that in 2023, that's going to be around 50 billion. And they're still doing calculations on that. I could not find what the actual number was, just some estimations. But look at this. In 2032, they're estimating that the market size is projected to be about $82.6 billion. I would say that they're low on that. And I think what you have to really understand the importance of peptides and peptide development is that there are more than $3 billion annually spent on developing peptides. Okay, amino acid chains, 3 billion annually. So if that doesn't show you the importance of peptides, if drug companies and pharmaceutical companies are investing that kind of money, it must be hugely important and hugely effective. And the great thing about peptides is that they are very effective with very low adverse events. And so they know, the drug companies know that this is a huge target for them and how to develop a peptide type product. So there are over 7,000 peptides that have been identified in the human body. Okay, 7,000. There are a lot more that have not been identified yet. Now, shockingly, you would think that the human body or, an animal or a mammal or something like that would have the most. They're not. You have millions of bioactive peptides that exist in nature, millions. And there are millions that are still to be identified in nature. So it's a huge opportunity. Now, I think what you have to really look at is, before we get into the muscle facts, I want you to understand what the difference is in a peptide therapeutic and a bioactive precision peptide. So a peptide therapeutic is a peptide chain that is synthetically made, synthesized in a laboratory. Okay. So they synthesize these through chemical reactions. They add amino acid, add an amino acid, add an amino acid, add amino acid with these peptide bonds and or amide bonds, basically, which is basically the same thing. And as they add, they get this peptide chain that they're looking for, and that's the peptide. So it's synthesized in a lab. That's a peptide therapeutic. That's what's being spent. The 3 billion a year annually. That's what that's being invested in, is how to develop these peptide chains that have some type of physiological benefit. On the other hand, bioactive precision peptides like we have in FIT are found in nature. Okay. We've identified 2 primary bioactive peptides that I'll discuss fairly deeply later on in the presentation that exist in the PeptiStrong Plus material. And those bioactive peptides are 2 of millions that are available and ready to be discovered in nature. So a lot of people are going to say, well, you're developing drugs. No, we're not. No, we're not. We're taking things that exist in nature that the human body knows how to use. We digest peptides every single day of our life. I've heard people say that people ingest, proteins. Those proteins are broken all the way down into their free-form amino acids. No, they're not. They are absolutely not. And the same thing goes for plant foods as well. The proteins and the peptides that are contained in plants and animals are not broken all the way down into their amino acid components. They are broken down into dipeptides, tripeptides, polypeptides, and they're basically absorbed into the body, digested into the body. They make it through the digestive process, and they enter into the body as peptides, bioactive peptides. And these bioactive peptides exist in nature. We take them every day. They are safe. Now, the great thing about what we've got with PeptiStrong is we've identified 2 that have very specific functions. And so let me get to those real quick. Before I do that, let me talk about muscle and the importance of muscle. Because muscle, a lot of people think that muscle is just a structural organ. It doesn't have anything to do with really anything else in the human body, and that couldn't be further from the truth. And I would venture to say that muscle, especially with what I study, is the single most important organ in the human body. Let me tell you why. Muscle comprises about 40% of our total body weight. So look at your body, 40% of it's muscle. Skeletal muscle also contains about 50 to 75% of all body proteins. Now, there are other proteins found in other components and other organs of the body as well, but skeletal muscle contains the vast majority of that. Now, here's where the problem begins. So beginning in the 3rd decade of life, skeletal muscle mass starts to decline at a rate of about 3 to 8% per decade. Okay. Now you think, I'm in my 20s and I lose 3% of my muscle mass. That doesn't sound like a lot until I lose 3% in my 20s and 3% in my 30s and 3% in my 40s. And then all of a sudden I get into my 50s and you'll see the next line item that says loss of skeletal muscle increases significantly to 1 to 2% per year over the age of 50. And guess what? All of a sudden we get into our 50s and we find ourselves starting to ache and hurt and chronic diseases starting to impact our body. And I'm telling you that the loss of skeletal muscle mass significantly impacts the onset of age-related chronic illnesses and diseases. It is a significant contributor. The loss of muscle mass is a significant contributor to those conditions. And so as we get older, we have to understand that everything that we did when we were younger has a major impact on what happens to us as we get older. And so it's extremely important that we pay attention to our muscle mass in our 20s, in our 30s, and in our 40s. We have to prevent that 3% loss. We certainly have to prevent the 8% loss. That is significant. And when you start losing 8% per decade, then you start talking about early onset chronic illnesses and diseases, and that's where it gets even worse. Okay, so last point about muscle is your body turns over 2% of its muscle mass every single day. Okay, now understand the significance of this. 2% of 40% of your body weight is turned over and has to be replaced every single day in order to maintain the level of muscle mass that you're at right now. All right. If you cannot replace that by rebuilding and regenerating new muscle mass, that's where you start to lose muscle mass. And so you can see real quick that if you're not consuming the right amounts of protein, the right types of protein, enough complete proteins with all the amino acids, if you're not doing the things that you need to do on a daily basis, and you're dedicated to that and focused on that, then you can see real quick when your body's losing 2% or turning over 2% of its muscle mass every day, that muscle can disappear real fast. And next thing you know, you're crippled. Next thing you know, you're suffering from some chronic illness or disease. And the next thing you know, you're a lifetime customer of a pharmaceutical company somewhere. And that's what we don't want to happen. All right. And I don't know about you, but I'm almost 60 years old. I don't want to be a customer to the pharmaceutical world. I want to have a quality of life. I want to be strong. I want to be able to play with my kids and my grandkids and my great grandkids all the way into my 90s and even hundreds if I possibly can. And so you have to pay attention. If that's your goal and you really start to focus on that, you have to pay attention to that today. And today is not too late to start. Okay. So that's the importance of muscle mass. And again, I want to clarify one more time. We're not talking about going to the gym. We're not talking about turning into Nate DeTracy. Okay. We're not talking about becoming a professional bodybuilder. We're talking about doing the things that we can do to maintain muscle mass and maintain our strength and maintain our functionality so that we can have a quality of life that is second to none. It's exactly what we want. So let's talk about the fit a little bit. So our fit is basically a plant-based bioactive precision peptide product. The PeptiStrong material is a patented material. The metabolic matrix technology, essentially what that means is that the peptides and the two primary peptides that we're going to talk about, the ones that are studied, are actually encased in a matrix with other peptides. So these two peptides are not the only two peptides that are contained in PeptiStrong. These are the two that were identified and studied the most. They actually have a double-blind, randomized controlled trial comparing the effects of the PeptiStrong versus a placebo, and the results were tremendous. So the two primary peptides you'll see on the slide, HLPSY, SPSPQ. All right, that particular peptide is based on muscle protein synthesis and enhancing muscle protein synthesis in the body, and it has been proven to do that. The TIKI-PAGT peptide reduces pro-inflammatory cytokine release, which basically, if you look at inflammation is a major contributor to not muscle protein synthesis, but muscle protein breakdown. So inflammation leads to breakdown. So if we have the ability to support muscle protein synthesis and inhibit pro-inflammatory cytokine release, guess what we can do? We can really enhance the synthesis of muscle protein on the human body. Now, in this double-blind placebo randomized controlled study, what they found was a significant improved strength recovery. It improved basically strength over the time that it took to recover. So it improved your strength. It improves your functionality. When you improve your muscle strength, you keep your muscle functionality. That is a big, big, big deal. Reduced fatigue. So what that allows you to do is you go into the gym, you get a workout in. If it reduces your fatigue, you're actually able to go work out earlier and get more gains earlier. It doesn't take you as long. That goes back to the recovery phase. The next one is significant. Okay. And let me explain to you what myostatin is. Myostatin is what is called a myokine. All right. So myokines are chemicals. Myo means muscle, and myokines are chemicals that are secreted by muscle. Okay. You have myokines that enhance muscle protein synthesis, and you have one specific myokine that is associated with a sedentary behavior, sedentary lifestyle, inactivity, called myostatin, that actually enhances and stimulates muscle protein breakdown. Okay. And so myostatin, if you can inhibit myostatin and inhibit the secretion of myostatin, then you can enhance muscle protein synthesis and prevent muscle protein breakdown. Myostatin is the one myokine that is being studied right now for suppression by a number of different peptide companies. And we have a material here that has been shown to suppress myostatin expression by greater than 56%. Guys, you don't understand how big that one thing is right there, because if we can keep our myostatin levels low, then guess what? We can actually help our body not to lose that 3% a decade in our 20s. We can prevent a lot of that loss of muscle protein breakdown that's occurring just by suppressing the myostatin alone, not to mention all the other benefits of increasing and stimulating muscle protein synthesis as well. Now, here's the other biochemical pathway that especially the HLPSY, SPSPQ peptide works, is by activation of mTOR and mTORC1. Okay. Now, mTOR is what is responsible. When you turn on mTOR, you turn on the building of muscle. Okay. There's another anti-mTOR pathway called the AMPK pathway. And I don't have it up here. I'm just talking about some muscle chemistry for you right now. But the AMPK pathway actually stimulates the breakdown of muscle. And so if AMPK is high, guess what? mTOR is low. If mTOR is activated and high, then AMPK is low. Okay. Myostatin, when you're, basically inhibiting the expression of myostatin, you're actually also additionally enhancing mTOR and allowing mTOR to go in and help your body build that muscle mass. So those are huge, huge benefits of the PeptiStrong product. Now, we will get further and further and further into PeptiStrong, and we'll get more and more and more into the science as we do more trainings. I want to just kind of give you guys tonight just a base level to understand what the two primary peptides are, what the two functions are: muscle protein synthesis, reduction of inflammation, and then suppression of myostatin. And then later on at a follow-up training, we'll start getting a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. But I want you guys to understand right now, keep it really simple, okay? We've got two primary peptides. One's for building muscle. One is for preventing inflammation from causing muscle protein breakdown. And the other one is suppressing a myokine called myostatin. And if we think about those three things right now, and you could even talk about the activation of mTOR, which is fairly significant, but that's directly related to muscle protein synthesis. That's the pathway that HLPSY, SPSPQ works down. if you'll focus on those three things and just keep it really simple, that'll help people to understand that, man, we have something really special here. So why does this matter? Why is it important to maintain and build lean muscle mass? Well, we've already seen that our bodies lose a significant amount of muscle mass and turn over a significant amount of muscle mass every single day. Okay. So if we don't do things now that are going to help us maintain and build our lean muscle mass, we're going to end up in a nursing home. We're going to end up crippled. We're going to end up in with chronic illness, chronic disease. Those are significant issues. They're very costly. They're very costly personally, and they're very costly to the healthcare system. Those are things that we want to try to prevent as much as we can. We have a vehicle to prevent that. Okay. We want to maintain and protect our metabolic fitness. I want you to learn this word, this term, metabolic fitness, because muscle mass equals metabolic fitness. Lose your muscle mass, you lose your metabolic fitness. Okay. You got to start thinking that muscle is a lot more than just structural. You've got a muscle brain axis because muscle affects your brain. You got a muscle heart axis. You've got a muscle liver axis. You've got a muscle pancreas axis because muscle goes hand in hand. You've got to think about muscle actually utilizes 80% of all glucose that's taken in by the body. Think about that for a second. Muscle utilizes 80% of all blood sugar. If we're not metabolically fit, then guess what that blood sugar does? That blood sugar gets converted to fat and stored as fat if that muscle's not using it. So by maintaining and protecting our metabolic fitness, by maintaining and building lean muscle mass, we make sure that our body maintains its functional ability. All right. Maintenance of functional ability is absolutely key if we want to have a quality of life 20 years, 30 years, 40 years from now. And it's incredibly important that you guys that are in your 20s and your 30s, you have to start thinking about this now. There's actually science that shows that protein malnutrition of infants in the womb that haven't even been born yet, actually have a significantly increased, prevalence. They have a significantly increased prevalence of developing sarcopenia earlier in life. Okay. Meaning not in our 50s. They typically start to really develop the actual disease, which is a significant loss of muscle mass, muscle function, and muscle strength earlier in life. So we even find out that protein malnutrition of infants in the womb can affect them earlier in life in the development of sarcopenia. It's a significant problem. So you also have to remember loss of muscle mass associated with numerous chronic illnesses and diseases. And last but not least, what we do now affects us in the future. Always remember that. Okay. And so I'm going to stop the training right there tonight. I want you guys to think about what we've said. We're going to have additional trainings. We're going to get really, really deep into this product. This is a phenomenal product. And I want you guys to understand and start bringing it in piece by piece by piece, just how important fit is and how important peptides are and how important peptides are going to be to the success of this business. And I got to tell you, I appreciate you guys joining us tonight. I couldn't be more excited about what's going on. And peptides can truly make a difference in numerous ways. So thank you guys. I hope you have a great night, and we'll see you soon.